What is GDP growth, and should we care about it? It's almost impossible to listen to politicians and economists without the question of GDP growth, or more usually just growth, cropping up. It's billed as the main indicator of a country's economic performance, as well as the remedy for all kinds of woes. Indeed, a lack of growth, or worse still, negative growth, can fatally undermine a government. Put simply, though, GDP, or gross domestic product, is just a calculation of all the market activity within a nation's borders. It's made up of spending on consumption and investment, government spending minus tax revenues, and exports minus imports. In other words, it tells us whether a nation is spending more or less than before. But GDP growth was never intended to be the bright star by which an economy should be steered. The concept was originally created by Simon Kuznets to measure the economic impact of the Great Depression. At the time, the US government didn't collect statistics on things like employment or inflation. So Kuznets, using the limited data that was available, came up with a basic dollar value of all the nation's goods and services, eventually earning him the Nobel Prize in Economics. Whilst this did indeed help the US administration understand the scale of the Great Depression, Kuznets went to considerable lengths to point out that GDP was not a great indicator of economic health, let alone the condition of society. It should therefore never be used as a basis for managing an economy. He argued that some of the things being measured, such as weapons manufacturing and sales, could be considered harmful, while others, like financial speculation, were simply useless. Equally, there are vital things that GDP doesn't include, such as voluntary work and work carried out by carers and homemakers. Nevertheless, GDP's relatively simplistic nature and regular publication of figures have helped it become a significant and enduring indicator in the eyes of financial markets, especially those funding government debt. As a result, for years, politicians have given it far too much weight in terms of policy design. For example, in September 2014, estimates of activities such as drug dealing and prostitutions were also included in GDP. Being illegal, these are actually a drag on the economy in terms of policing, legal resources, and imprisonment, and they contribute nothing to tax revenues. Meanwhile, inequality, poverty, employment security, and social care remain largely off the radar. So is GDP a complete bust? Not entirely. It does tell us something. But as Kuznets realized, nothing like all we need to know. For practical purposes, we need a range of indicators, not just one. And these need to not only reflect where society and the economy want to go, they also need to measure the outcomes of policy initiatives. For example, where are the indicators for recent major policy initiatives, such as leveling up and development of the green economy? Fortunately, though, not everyone thinks that GDP growth is the be-all and end-all of economic management. Some are already taking practical steps to move things forward. In 2019, for example, New Zealand incorporated well-being indicators into the budget-setting process. According to its finance minister, Grant Robertson, this is because success is about making New Zealand both a great place to make a living and a great place to make a life. In the end, unless indicators are directly related to policy objectives like that, the problem with GDP growth becomes clear. It's just a number.